Have you ever looked at the job title AI engineer and wondered, okay, but what does it actually take to become one? Well, you're in the right place. We're going to lay out the entire blueprint for you, a clear, step-by-step roadmap for your career journey. I want you to think of this journey like a climb up a huge, awesome mountain. From the bottom, it can look kind of intimidating, right? But trust me, with the right map, every single step becomes clear and totally achievable. And guess what? This explainer right here is that map. We're going to break down the whole path into three main phases. We'll start at base camp, building the foundation. Then we'll make the big ascent through the developer stage. And finally, we'll reach that summit as a full-fledged AI architect. So let's get right to it. What is an AI engineer? Forget all the complicated jargon for a second. At their core, they're builders. They take the incredible power of AI and they forge it into real-world applications that solve actual, tangible problems for people and for companies. And what kind of stuff are we talking about? Well, you use it every day. Think about that recommendation system that just knows what movie you want to watch next. Or that intelligent chatbot that helps you solve a problem at 2 in the morning. Or even an image classifier that can spot a cat in a photo. AI engineers build all of that. All right, let's start the climb. Phase 1 is all about building your foundation. This is your first base camp. It's where you gather all your essential gear and really learn the terrain before you start heading up the mountain. For the first 3 months, your mission is simple: master the core tools. I mean, get really comfortable with Python, the key data libraries like NumPy and Pandas, grabbing data with SQL, and, of course, understanding the basics of statistics. Then, for the next 3 months, you start putting it all to work. You'll build your first simple machine learning models, and this is the most important part, you'll complete 2 or 3 small projects to make sure that knowledge actually sticks. Okay, this slide is super important because it gets right to the point. Your focus has to be on nailing down Python and getting a real feel for the math behind the models. You need to understand how the simple stuff works before you get all fancy. The biggest mistake people make here is jumping straight into deep learning or just binge watching tutorials without actually building anything. You have got to get your hands dirty with the fundamentals. So you've learned a bunch, but now you have to prove it, right? Your resume at this stage should be simple and super clear. Highlight your skills and, most importantly, those projects you just built. And your GitHub account? That's your proof. Don't just dump a bunch of code on there. Create clean, easy-to-read README files for every project. Explain what it is, how it works, and throw in a screenshot. Make it easy for someone to see how far you've come. Let's move on to phase 2. You've left base camp and you're making that midpoint ascent. This is where you level up from just a learner to a real-deal AI developer. Yeah, the climb gets a little steeper here, but wow, the views are starting to get incredible. Now this is where you seriously level up. First, you're diving into the deep end, learning powerful frameworks like PyTorch or TensorFlow. But it's not just theory. You're getting into the basics of MLOps, learning how to package your models with something like Docker and actually deploy them to the cloud. You'll build solid data pipelines to feed those models and really focus on hands-on mastery by fine-tuning and training your own models on some really challenging projects. You know, the big shift in thinking at this stage is all about production. A model that only exists in a notebook is just a cool experiment. You absolutely must understand how to deploy it so people can use it. And as you're learning deep learning, really focus on the fundamentals. Don't just chase every new flashy research paper that comes out. It's also time to move past those simple, clean datasets and start working with more complex, messy, real-world data. Your portfolio has to reflect this big leap forward. On your resume, I want you to stop listing tasks and start showing your impact. You do this with what we call impact billets, phrases that show a measurable result. Instead of saying, I built a model, you need to say what that model actually achieved. And your portfolio should feature real, deployed applications, things people can actually interact with, not just a bunch of static code notebooks. Now this is a perfect example of an impact bullet. This one sentence tells a hiring manager everything they need to know. You didn't just build a tool, you built a RAG assistant. It didn't just work, it improved a key business metric, retrieval accuracy. And the impact? It wasn't just good, it was a massive, measurable jump of 42%. That number right there, that is everything. It's concrete, it's impressive, and it sticks in your head. This is what separates a pretty good resume from a great one. It proves your value in the one language every single business understands: results. All right, it's time for the final ascent. Phase 3 is all about becoming an architect and reaching the summit. At this point, your whole perspective changes. You're no longer just building a single app. You're designing entire, complex, end-to-end AI systems. At this expert level, you are tackling the biggest challenges in the field. You're working with super advanced architectures. You're designing AI agents that can actually reason and act on their own. And you're building MLOps pipelines that can scale to massive production environments. And critically, you are now responsible for the reliability, the ethics, and the performance of these incredibly powerful systems. The most important thing to get at this level is that expertise is so much more than code. It's about leadership. You're designing whole systems from start to finish, which means you have to clearly communicate with business stakeholders. You're leading projects and mentoring other engineers. The biggest trap you can fall into here is becoming isolated. The best architects are master collaborators who deeply understand the full impact of their systems. So how do you even prove you're at this level? Well, your resume now is all about leadership. You're highlighting the huge, large-scale systems you've architected, the teams you've led, and the massive business impact you've delivered. And beyond that, you demonstrate what's called thought leadership, maybe through talks at conferences, research papers, or major contributions to open-source projects. You're not just a builder anymore, you're a voice in the community. So, we've mapped out the 3 major phases of the climb. But what are the rules that guide you through the entire journey? I want you to think of this as the climber's code, the principles you carry with you from base camp all the way to the summit. These 3 rules right here are your North Star for this entire climb. First, always be building. Theory is good, but real hands-on projects are where you will truly learn your craft. Second, constantly update your map. And by map, I mean your resume and your portfolio. They are living documents, not something you make once and forget. And finally, number 3, learn to tell your story. You can build the most amazing AI in the world, but if you can't clearly explain what you did and why it matters, you're not going to get the recognition you deserve. So there you have it. This blueprint is your map. You've got the route, you know the gear you need, and you have the principles for the climb. The world of AI is always changing, so to continue your journey and stay on top of the latest trends, check out the AI Shima. You have the plan. The only question left is, what are you going to build first?